my name's Warren. I'm one of the co-founders at 33 Shake, and welcome to this episode of the 33 Shake vlog. In this video, we're going to be looking at professional cycling's dirty plastic secret, because quite literally, the sport is awash in a sea of the stuff. We're going to be looking at what that means for cycling, what it means for athletes in general, and what can be done about it. Because at 33 Shake, our mission is to bring maximum value to endurance athletes. And we do that in these vlogs by sharing the very best in training, nutrition, motivation and mindset tips and tricks for your endurance racing and training. And we also do it in store at 33shake.com with our awesome natural sports nutrition products. Now, with that said, let's get on with this show. Now, if you pedal about the place on your daily business, you can quite smugly slash carbon emissions and help the planet with every pedal stroke. Cycling's a pretty green thing to be doing, right? And the Tour de France is cycling in all its majesty, wonder and beauty as it winds and powers its way through some of the most spectacularly beautiful and challenging and demanding spots across mainland Europe. But there is a bit of a skeleton in pro cycling's cupboard. And that skeleton is plastic. There is loads of it. And what we're going to look at here is the riders' bottles, or bidons, in cycling geek speak. Because these get tossed to the roadside as the peloton powers past. Now, what this means for the races is plastic lost everywhere. But officially, at the Tour and other races, this doesn't happen. Looking at the Tour, there's designated waste collection areas where bottles can be tossed, where they'll be collected. This is normally at the start and end of the feed zones where the riders are collecting musettes and food and stuff to fuel them through the next stages. And then the rule book, it says to respect the environment, it is strictly forbidden to carelessly jettison drink containers or any other accessories outside of the waste collection zone. Then there's also the rider's book, which says this on the matter. Says, I will use the bins at the start and end of the feed zones in which to throw my rubbish. Outside of the feed zone, I will put my rubbish in my pockets. So, good. Everyone's in agreement. There is absolutely no slinging of random plastic into the countryside. Jolly good. Case closed, right? But if you watch the race, you'll see a slightly different story, as quite literally bottles and wrappers galore spray from the peloton as it goes past, and an awful lot of that stuff, if you're watching, doesn't appear to go anywhere near either spectators or feed zones, and appears to go into the undergrowth, down ravines, into the middle of nowhere, and just disappear off the side of the road. So what does actually happen to the Tour's lost bottles? Well, one popular answer here is that they are leapt upon by eager fans who are keen for a memento of the incredible bike race and their heroes who they've just watched fly by. Not literally fly, obviously they were on bicycles. That was an expression. But what rather punctures this idea of a virtuous cycle attached to what is, in some cases, little more than high-speed fly tipping is 2 points. And the first one is, who really is in a hurry to get a half-empty water bottle covered in dribble and sweat? Probably not too many people. And then on top of that, as mentioned earlier, a number of the bottles, if you're watching on TV, go into pretty inaccessible areas or drop down ravines or fall off bridges or whatever. Who's really going to go chasing after those? Now, when we then look a step further, another answer is a cleanup crew comes through behind and they get all the ones that weren't collected. Which again, that makes good sense. And we watch any major mass participation event or professional race like this, and there is always a cleanup crew going through. They have to look after the place. But as we mentioned earlier, a lot of the bottles and trash seems to go where it's completely inaccessible. Now, if a die-hard fan isn't going to go and get that, I certainly don't think that a part-time bin man in a hurry is going to either notice or go for it either. So there's a bit of a question mark over whether that ever happens. But even if they didn't all get picked up, how many bottles does the Tour de France use anyway? It's time now for a little bit of maths. So, the Tour has 176 riders. Now, I know that during the course of the event, some are going to drop out, but we're not going to need to be that complicated with the calculations here. 176 riders, okay? Let's say each rider uses 4 bottles a day. In reality, it's probably more. So let's go for 4 bottles a day for a rider, and we're going to assume that they all finish with a bottle in their bike. Now, if you've ever seen particularly a mountaintop finish, you'll know a lot of them don't. They don't want to carry that weight up to the top. But again, for simplicity's sake, we've got 176 riders. They're using 4 bottles a day, which means that there's 1 left in the bike at the end of the day that could theoretically be used the next day. That's going to leave 3 bottles that they're going to get rid of, 3 disposable type bottles they're going to get rid of during the course of every day. The tour itself is 21 days long. We need to take away the 2 rest days and also the team time trial day and the individual time trial day, because there's no need for more than 1 bottle there, and if they're using 1, they'll carry it, it'll stay on the bike the whole way through. So what do we got? 176 riders, 3 bottles, 17 racing days, which makes 8,976 water bottles being thrown into the countryside. Holy moly, that is a lot. Before we all get too carried away though, let's be kind here. Let's say that 50% of those are either picked up by fans who just can't wait to get hold of some pro rider backwash, or they are picked up by the cleanup crew or dropped in the official areas. What does that leave us with? Well, I'm going to tell you what the answer, no need to worry. 4,488 bottles remaining. And I think with the rough figures we've used there, that is being pretty kind. That's 4,448 water bottles, 4,488 water bottles, which are left rotting in the countryside. Now, let's be kinder again. Let's assume that all the smaller 500ml varieties. Now, they're not, because on a number of days, particularly hotter days, riders may use bigger 600, 650 or 750ml water bottles. But again, keep the calculation simple. Let's say they're all the 500ml varieties. Currently, a decent pro water bottle would weigh 91 grams. That gives us 410 kilos of plastic littering the roadside that isn't being picked up. That's nearly half a metric ton of plastic. Now, in this day and age, with people's awareness about the environment, about plastic, about recycling, about what's happening to our oceans, all of those things, this just, for such a beautiful sport, this looks like an ugly, unnecessary blot. Because beyond this, it isn't just the environment that takes a hit every time this happens. It's sports culture as a whole, because consciously or subconsciously, the behaviours of professional cyclists do send a message to other cyclists. And the simple message that this really sends is that when you're pushing really hard, fly tipping is fine. It could even be a sign of how hardcore you are. Velominati, the website and a group that is the keeper of cycling's rules, and truly a good place. You should definitely check it out. But on water bottle tossing, they have this to say. They do say, "I can only imagine the moment in a young pro's life when he first gets to fling an empty to the side of the road. There must be no clearer sign that you've hit the big time." Already there's a subconscious or even a conscious cultural association between tossing bottles away willy-nilly into the countryside and being hardcore and pro. Doesn't seem that that's an association that we should really be glorifying ever, but certainly not now we know the the environmental impact of all this unnecessary plastic. So what this means is it isn't just mass participation events that are swamped in a sea of gel wrappers and empty bottles, but it's also training hotspots around the world. So whether you're at Box Hill, whether you're climbing Alpe d'Huez, whether you're running the Western States Trail out in the US, doesn't matter where it is, all of these places are loaded with unnecessary plastic. I mean, I was cycling, I'm lucky enough to be in France recently, and I was cycling up the Col de Tourmalet. and you could literally memorize the route by the empty gel wrappers at the side of the road. Seriously, you look where you are. How does anyone think it's a good idea or even acceptable to do that, let alone necessary? But, you know, this is the cultural thing, and you get, you know, amateur riders out on their ride and they're really deep in the zone, and obviously far too deep in the zone to possibly stop and pick up a gel wrapper, which when you look at it logically away from the heat at the moment is plainly completely ridiculous. So what is the solution? We've seen the problem. What's the solution? It's really, really bloody simple. I mean, for pro cycling, all you got to do is bring in serious time penalties for chucking away bottles. That's it, right? As soon as you do that, the peloton will stop. The pro ranks will find a way around this. Tactics will emerge to deal with it. Let's face it, already domestiques are ferrying water bottles from the team car up to the peloton. Now they just need to ferry them back again. If the time penalty is severe enough, I mean, forget a financial penalty. That's not going to cut it. Time is what's going to matter in those races. When the financial penalty is severe enough, every team will come up with a strategy, and there will be ways to do better and worse. You know, they'll have to work on it. The ones who do better at it will gain the advantage. You get those bottles back to the car. You look at how many bottles each team has. Right, team is given a certain number of bottles at the start of the event, and they must have the same number of bottles at the end of the event. And if they don't, again, time penalties for that. Simple as that. Job done. Pro cycling covered. But what about for amateurs? For amateurs, it's just a reality check for the rest of us. It's like, you carried it in, now it's empty, it's even lighter, you can definitely carry it out again. And to take this a step further, let's go with the concept of trail karma. This is something I was first introduced to by good friends at the Trail Runner Nation podcast. If you're into your running, particularly your trail running or your ultra distance running at all, you should definitely check it out. It's a brilliant, brilliant show. But this is one of the things they introduced me to early on. And trail karma simply involves doing a little bit of selfless good while you're out on the trail. So that could be helping someone out. You know, they haven't got any food, you give them a bit of food from your pack or whatever. But it could really be as simple as just picking up that bit of rubbish. So this is what I did it's been a habit a long time. I did it on Tourmalet. I picked up some of the gel wrappers that I saw, stuck them in my shirt, carry it out, put it in the bin. That little bit of karma costs you nothing, and you never know when you're going to need it. So how does trail karma work? Well, you bank it by doing selfless good stuff, just the small things, doesn't have to be anything major. Lend someone a gas canister, pick up an empty gel wrapper, whatever it is. By the way, the gas canister reference, that's for cyclists, I'm assuming. I can't think where else you'd need that, as in using it for puncture repair. But you do that little bit of selfless good, you bank a little bit of that karma. That could be withdrawn at any time. You'll never really know. It might be that ride or run when you just get home before that storm broke. It might be the tree route that you just missed tripping on. It might be that fall that you turn out to be completely uninjured. It could even be that person who stops and helps you with your puncture with the spare gas canister, as we mentioned earlier. But either way, it's virtuous. It just keeps going. Frankly, folks, it's all karma. So the next time you're out, running, cycling, whatever, and you see that bit of discarded plastic that some careless moron has dropped because they were too deep in the zone or whatever it was to possibly put it back in the pocket, pick it up, sling it in the bin next time, there's your karma. You never know when that is going to be withdrawn as a positive for you. Yeah, so there we have it. That is pro cycling, plastic, and what it means for all of us. Hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks very much for watching. And to connect with all things 33 Shape, you can join us on all manner of social media. You'll find the links in the show notes below, or drop us an email. Our email's in there as well. Or if you're looking for the very finest in sports nutrition for your running, your cycling, your triathlon, your swimming, then check us out. You'll find all of our stuff at 33shake.com.